Howdy, legends. What an episode we have for you today. Taylor Adams from the Sydney Swans joins us. This was a very, very interesting episode. I mean, Taylor's had quite an incredible journey. Full circle back to the Sydney Swans now, as we know, in a trade period that was a bit of a shock to his system, leaving Collingwood, which we go into in some great detail. We go into the heartbreak of his journey around the grand final last year, which testament to his character, to what he went through and how he handled that, but one of the toughest moments of his life as he shares. We go through the time that he had going to the Giants in those initial years of the AFL, which were quite brutal from a wins and loss columns point of view, but also we go through, for all you Collingwood fans, what an incredible career Taylor Adams had at the Pies. He was second in Norm Smith in the 2018 grand final. He was an All-Australian in 2020. He's been a fantastic player of the game in the AFL, and he's absolutely loving his time up in Sydney with some high-quality players playing under John Longmire at one of the great football clubs in our league. This is a wonderful episode. Let's get into it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Unlaced podcast. As I always say, if you are new here, thank you for turning up. And if you come back again, I absolutely love you. Big episode today. I always say it, but I tell you what, we've spoken to this man a number of times to get him on, and we've had to make a few shifts around it because the trade season opened up and this man was making some moves. So naturally, it became a little bit harder to get him on, but he's given us his time today. And without doubt, I'm very happy to announce the Sydney Swans' latest addition to their midfield, Taylor Adams. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, mate. Great to be here. It's an awesome setup.
Yeah, it is, huh? I was just speaking off air how you've done a few of these, and I'm like, mate, I just know you're going to be good on these. You're actually very well spoken.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does that make media training hard from a young age when you've gone up to GWS?
Yeah, well, I definitely wasn't good at this stuff or good in front of a camera or a microphone early days. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's something you got to work on.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I saw an interview last night of Dom Tyson interviewing when you were 19.
I know exactly.
You guys
had like the hair.
Yeah, you've got the hair. You had like a 30-man group go to a last Swedish House Mafia tour.
Yes.
Yeah, which would have been a wild time. It actually made me think, like, fuck, being up there, as tough as the results were for those first couple of years, it would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was, mate. Like, I got drafted on a Thursday night up in Sydney.
Yeah.
I think they still do the same thing with the draft. They take, the top 30 prospects up to a city or...
Yeah.
And obviously at the time, that was the expansion city being Western Sydney, so all the top draft picks went up there. Got drafted on the Thursday night with, the Giants had pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So who went in that? From
Patton,
was that you and Johnny Patton?
Patton, Canelio, Dom Tyson, Will, Hoskin Elliott. Pick 5, Matt Buntime. And they had pick 7, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14 of the top 15 picks.
That's no wonder they're in flag consideration, even though half the team's left.
Yeah, so it was like we went up there, and then I moved up on the Sunday. So Thursday night, flew home Friday, bit of a celebration Friday with like my school friends and family, and people that had supported me, and then packed my bags Saturday, and I was living in Sydney on the Sunday.
Wow, dude!
Gee, this is you look back at it now and you think, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, really? Yeah.
Yeah, like I was just a kid. Like obviously lived with my parents, went to school in Geelong. Mum and Dad did everything for me.
It's a bit of a bubble, like as beautiful as Geelong is, a bit of a bubble too. Like a lot of people that live there say,
yeah. It's a pretty cruisy lifestyle.
Yeah, it's great.
And then you get thrown into the blender, the mixer up in Sydney, and I mean there's probably 30 of us that were, around the age of 20.
Wow.
And so you can imagine what Saturday night looked like.
Yeah. A lot of team bonding. Yeah.
15-goal loss straight to, we used to go to a pub called the Palace, and that was where we sort of all lived around. And then we'd catch a ferry into the city and go to Wharf Bar, and mate, it was good. It was great fun.
Yeah.
The football club was, obviously the wins and losses. I think I won 3 games my first 2 years.
Yeah.
The football club and the camaraderie and the way that they set it up to feel like a second family was really good. So, it made it really hard when guys had to make decisions about what they wanted to do with their footy future. And obviously mine's history now, but it was really difficult to make the decision to move away from that footy club.
Yeah. Well, at that time when you got there, because obviously it's beautiful. We can fast forward now, 10, 12 years. Any players from that sort of era when you were there, those couple of years that you knew were going to be superstars? That have gone on to do that? I mean, obviously there's naturally Jeremy Cameron's obviously one of the biggest ones, but was there anyone that, in that bracket for you that you just knew?
Yeah, well, Jeremy Cameron was, he was an interesting one because he didn't play a lot of rep footy growing up. So he went as a 17-year-old to the Giants as one of their. So he got drafted a year prior to.
Can they do that anymore?
I think they only had that for those expansion clubs. Yeah. Okay. So so no one really knew a lot about him until he played underage at the national champs.
Oh, okay, right.
And he was this kid from Dartmoor, like this long left footer, pretty unco, but seriously gifted.
Yeah.
So I always thought that he was going to be a superstar.
Wow.
Probably didn't think he was going to be as good as he is now, and he's going to go down as one of the greats of two footy clubs now.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then the other one's probably Toby. Just he was similar. He didn't play rep footy until he was 17. So come in and played Vic Metro and had a really great carnival, and then went, I think, pick 11. And I think the reason I knew Toby was going to be great was because of his competitiveness and his nature of just never giving up.
A bit like you, mate. That's it. You're built from that cloth too, aren't you?
Yeah, and we actually used to do a lot of training together, Toby and I, at the Giants. A lot of one-on-one work, and turns out he's probably the best one-on-one player in the comp now. So, he was a guy that I looked up to as a teammate, even though he was my age, and he was an absolute rat bag off the field. We used to get into some mischief and. Yeah, like full circle.
Like he's calmed down a bit now. Not calmed down. He just seems. He's got a kid. All that sort of stuff.
George just had their first child, Isla. It's funny how it all works. I mean, he was a rat bag, but he wasn't the only one up there.
Yeah, I would have thought so, right?
Yeah. And like he's always been one of the most professional guys you'll meet. Trains the house down.
Yeah.
Looks after himself, and I think as he's gotten older, he's done more and more in terms of the way that he prepares. Off field rather than at training. He's sort of, he's now a full-time athlete, where I reckon back in the early days he was probably a bit of a part-time. He'd turn up to the club and he'd put time and effort in and work his ass off, but then
separate lives. Separate lives.
When like, the game was over, there's a few of us to be the first at the pub. So comes a point where you got to make a decision. How good do you want to be? And obviously, for him, the rest is history.
What I probably want to go straight to Sydney, but I just want to get your reasons for your move and how Collingwood came about, because I'm going to spend a bit of time talking today about Collingwood, because I know we have a huge Collingwood listenership. It's obviously played like 175 games there too, but I will spend some time on it now. But just what was the reason for you, and why was Collingwood the obvious choice?
Well, what happened was, it's actually a bit of an interesting story. I was actually pretty open to staying at the Giants.
Really?
I'd held off for the best part of 18 months. And then I was actually, 50-50 on whether I wanted to come back to Victoria or play at the Giants. And I love the footy club, love the blokes. Exactly what I was saying before. Just a great place to be around. And
everyone actually, just on that, everyone who's been at the Giants, despite moving, like Tommy Bugg, one of my good mates, mate, the memories that have been built and the friendships, like Tommy Bugg, he reckons he's, the CEO of like the past players group or something. He's like, right now, he retired on his own terms at 25, but he's like Giants, everything he does, which is...
Yeah, they did a lot for us in our early days, and I was only there for 2 years. I think Buggy was there for 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I got to the end of the season in 2013, and I hadn't really made a decision, but basically the Giants had put a contract on the table early in that year, and then they'd effectively taken it off, and they had a contract sitting there, but it was probably about half of what it originally was in terms of length of deal and the remuneration. And I was like, well, that's so strange. Why? Like, I was actually playing pretty well. I think I finished in the top, 6 or 7 in the best and fairest, and I was having a pretty good year. And anyway, so I packed my bags and went back to Victoria and did some research at some of the big Melbourne football clubs, and went to Geelong and had a few meetings, and sort of made my mind up that I wanted to come back to Victoria.
Yeah.
Given the contract status, it was like...
So GWS, in some ways, not to drop a bomb, they dropped the ball a little bit, because if it was right...
This is where it gets interesting, and there was a reason for it. I was like, why? They actually did it to a couple of players, and we're all like, what's going on? Anyway, I got a call from the Giants, and Leon Cameron's the GM of footy at Sydney at the moment, and he was the coach. I got a call from Leon. He said, look, we've sent you a new contract. Can you review it? And it was back to what it originally was. So a pretty good, like a very competitive deal.
Oh, what?
And I was like, what's going on here? I called my manager and we had it back and forth. And anyway, I said to Leon, I'm like, mate, look, I think I've made my decision up. I want to go to Collingwood. I want to go to a Melbourne club, and Collingwood's my preference. So we had it out over the phone and not bad, like just, like as a coach would have an up-and-coming club, he didn't want players to walk out the door.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got on Twitter about 15 minutes later and the Buddy Franklin announcement had happened. So he'd obviously told the Swans that he was going to go to Sydney.
The Buddy offer.
Yeah, so the Giants are basically were offloading some of us young guys to try to get Buddy in the door, to fit him in the salary cap.
Interesting.
And I was like, I'd get rid of myself and 5 others if I can get Buddy. So there was no hard feelings there. And then I went and met with Bucks and the guys at Collingwood, and I'd actually known Bucks from, he was our under-16 Vic Country coach.
Oh,
so I had a prior relationship with him. And
had he just taken over? Had he had a season by then? He had a season or two in? Yeah.
Yeah, 12. Right. I think he had done 2 seasons, 12 and 13 right. Maybe.
Okay.
And I just thought that the trajectory of that football club was that.
Yeah.
You had Trav Cloak, you had Scott Pendlebury, Dane Swan, Harichi Lumumba. Like, you had guns all over the field. And I just thought, maybe I can go in there and, learn off Luke Ball, learn off Scotty Pendlebury.
I forget that you played with some of those A-graders.
Yeah, I played with Nick Maxwell.
You played with Nick Maxwell.
Yeah, half a year, and then he retired.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and obviously the draw card of playing in front of massive crowds and, playing for such a proud football club with rich history. And I just loved the you either love Collingwood or you hate Collingwood.
Yeah, which everyone who's on the Collingwood side loves.
Yeah. And
loves that aspect about them.
I love that aspect about them. And I was like, it's not an underdog sort of mentality, but it's like, fuck the world.
Fuck the world.
This is us. We don't need you to be good. And so I told both football clubs that I wanted to make the move to the Pies, and then I was traded for Heath Shaw, which was so random. Like, man, I was over.
Really? Was Heath Shaw on the other end of that?
Yeah, so we were a straight swap.
What a great trade by both teams, really, because Shaw played a lot of games for them too,
and was exactly what they needed.
Yeah, he was
some experience, a guy with incredible competitiveness, and a serious footballer, premiership experience.
Because he was quite young actually when he middle-aged?
I reckon like 26, 27 maybe.
Because I remember when I spoke to him about it, and he's one of those, another guy that absolutely speaks so highly of the Giants. Yeah. I didn't realise how many games he'd played at the Giants. I can't remember what he's obviously played 300 and something, but he played a good chunk of them at the Giants.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the split was, but he would have played at least 5 or 6 years there.
Yeah, which is, kudos to him. But so was Geelong not a serious option for you then?
It was. And I loved what Geelong presented. Chris Scott was the coach at that time, and that footy club I've always admired. And I think the older I've got, the more I've admired them. The way that they do everything, and how they just never bottom out.
Yeah.
And it would have been easy for me to go there, but I thought, I'm going to go. I want to live in Melbourne. I want to challenge myself a little bit more, and I think Mum and Dad were pretty keen on getting me back down to the surf coast down in Torquay. But the next best thing was Collingwood. So, well, for me, it was the best thing. It just made sense. It's weird because I spent 10 years at Collingwood now, and I look back at it and I think, geez, what a big decision that is. I reckon I nailed it. Like,
you bloody oath you did.
Yeah, like I probably didn't, Geelong win a flag, Collingwood win a flag last year. Like, there was times where I'm like, what a great football club Geelong would have been to play for, and all my mates are down there, But I just think that, the relationships that I've built at Collingwood and the people that I got to meet and work underneath and work alongside has been something that I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah, it's a special club. I always like asking people, because everyone knows it's a big club, but I think people learn it a lot more when you walk through the doors. And obviously, I've got a lot of friends there, so I've only learnt that the last few years. I'm like, this place is fucking enormous.
Yeah, it is.
Like the ecosystem around Collingwood and everything. Like the walk through the doors moment for you, like taking that all in. Yeah. Especially then you're walking in with you got players like Pendlebury, still Premiership players in your dressing room. Yeah. Like what was that like early doors for you? Because you're still quite raw as a kid at this point.
I had no idea. Yeah. It was incredible. I mean, one of the downfalls of the Giants, unfortunately, was that they didn't have a whole heap of senior players. Like they had Dean Brogan, Chad Corns, James McDonald, Luke Powell. Yeah. 4 guys that are absolute stars and just legends of blokes, and I had a real aura around them at the footy club. But underneath them, it was like Phil Davis and Callum Ward at the age of 22 and 21.
Were they already skippers at this point?
Yeah, I think they took over the captaincy in the second year. Yeah,
yeah, which is wild. Yeah. Wild. Who else?
Yeah, well, that's
you're right. To your point.
So yeah, you sort of walk into a locker room with Maxwell, Ball, Pendlebury, Sidebottom, even like Tuvey, Goldsack, Cloak. Like these guys are
Collingwood legends.
Yeah, McCaffrey. They all played in the Premiership. And most of them went on to play close to 200 games, and some of them are still playing. Which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, Pendles might retire after you. Sorry,
seriously.
This rate.
It's incredible. So, I was a little bit starstruck at the start, and then I think it just becomes the new normal for you. Like you realise that make the most of this opportunity to learn off these guys and. Put your head down and backside up and get to work. Yeah.
Well, I was one, and we'll go through your Collingwood journey in detail because I fucking love talking about the Pies. But I'll be genuinely honest, man. I was gutted when you left because your career at Collingwood was fucking unbelievable. Like you actually played, some unbelievable footy. There's a couple of things that people forget about. I think your journey at Collingwood as well. You came runner up in the Norm. In the 2018 grand final. I don't think people realise how good your grand final was.
Yeah.
So like when you missed this one, I was like, oh shit, because I'm like, you're a big game player, so you're going to turn up like for the clutch moments. But that in itself told me how good you were for the Pies. I was like right in the. Geordie mustn't have been too far off you as well. He had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think Tom Langdon was in the votes as well.
Tom Langdon, was he there? Wow, there you go. And then Shuey just nipped you because I think obviously they won, so that favoured him maybe.
Yeah, he had a great finals campaign, but also that grand final he was pretty special.
Yeah, but I just wanted to comment on that. I reckon people forget that a bit. Yeah, because no one remembers who comes second in the Norm.
No,
but it's a pretty good.
It's not the Brownlow. Like, no one remembers that Steele comes second in the Brownlow. Yeah, well, they probably do, but like it's like
unless you're having a beer with him, then he'll tell you. Yeah, which he has done many a times.
It's funny. It's like you just gloss over those details, but and like footy moves so fast. Like we went from 2018. I didn't even really give it 2 seconds of a thought. I was really proud of my finals campaign that year, but I was, you just start moving on to 2019 and thinking, we're winning it this year.
Yeah, we got to go again. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you play with Ben Johnson?
No.
You didn't?
I didn't. No, but he worked at the footy club.
Right, because there's a story about him, and I wanted to see if it was true, because I don't remember your first 6 or 7 games for the Pies. It was 2012 or 2014 or something. But apparently your first few games, you weren't rattled, but you didn't play your best.
Shit the bed.
Yeah, well, you didn't play your best. But I think that the whole Collingwood jersey, there is a weight of eyes and views and listeners, and obviously playing in the black and white stripes. It takes a bit of time to get used to, and we see it with a lot of players that come into the Pies now. But apparently he had a chat to you, which is funny. Like a guy from the Rat Pack, who's one of the most laid back players and talented players, came and had a chat to you about just chilling out and embracing it or something along those lines.
No, it's a true story.
True story. Yeah.
I certainly struggled my first 2 months at the footy club when games started.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting because watching the NFL draft yesterday. Yesterday.
Yeah.
It was all these adults with their club colours on, and all across the draft. Right, I'm like. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, Swanee have an agree. If you're an adult and you're wearing club colours,
I don't think so. But in America, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
And they all follow the college system, so there's just so much pressure on the draftees. These kids that are getting picked up in the NFL draft. I'm not comparing that to what we do, but it kind of felt like that a little bit for me because I went from the Giants where there was very little pressure, no pressure to win games. And obviously, you wanted to play well internally. There was some pressure for selection and on your spot there, but it wasn't like Collingwood. And when I first got there, I remember driving to my first game. We played Fremantle at Marvel, whatever it was back then, Telstra Dome. And I just remember thinking, holy shit, look at the fucking people. You're driving around, and it was 3 hours before the game. And I'm driving the Docklands,
noticed
and there's people everywhere. And I'm like, holy fuck. And you run out, and obviously the first game for the year, place was packed. Don't know why we played at Marvel. Anyway, we ended up getting beaten by 80 points. And I just thought, holy fuck. And then the next day it was Collingwood all over the paper. So I think I probably got caught up in that a lot. And it was our day off one day. I was probably 4 or 5 months into the season. and I'd still been grinding away, and I was doing like a kicking session at the Holden Centre at the time, and Ben Johnson walked down. He's like, "Mate, I see you on this fucking court way too often. Like, do you ever take a day off or just chill out?" And I was like, at that time I was pretty fucked. Like I was mentally like,
sure.
I was there all the time, just wanted to be better, and I thought that doing more was the only way to get better. And he just basically said, "Mate, you need to relax. You need to take a breath. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to work out okay. Just, I feel like you're in your own head too much." And yeah, it was great advice, because I still battle with that now.
Yeah.
So like to have someone with, the reputation that he had, as a great Collingwood player and a person that was revered at the footy club.
Yeah.
It gave me some perspective and gave me some. I actually went off the back of that. I went and saw like a sports psych and did some work with in the mental space.
That's amazing, because I was going to speak on this. I reckon our generation, because we're the same age, our generation and definitely above, we've come from the era of if things aren't going well, you work harder.
Yeah.
And we didn't get, and you probably got it just as you were into the AFL a bit, but I question whether you had it even your first few years. But we didn't get like really the importance of like the brain, how that is actually probably more impactful than the work that we do. Especially because you've done the work your whole life to get to that point. You're probably ready.
Yeah.
You're just overdoing things just to like with that OCD aspect in a way.
Yeah.
So that to me, like I speak to Tommy Mitchell about it all the time. He's still like rolling on foam rolls and handballing against walls and stuff. I'm you've had 50 on the G, mate. You don't need to do it. But just with that, like how have you gone with that? Because that also is like a bit of your fire and your on the edge, what would make you good. So how have you sort of managed that throughout your career of making sure that you're ready, but you're not putting all your eggs in one basket in a sense to free yourself up?
Yeah, it's a fine line. I still feel like I commit a lot of time to my craft, but I've got other things outside of football, and I've got balance now. So that definitely helps. And perspective, and just like a bit of maturity to understand that, like you're saying with Tommy, like, throwing a ball off a wall 600 times a day is probably not going to, it's marginal gains.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
at this point in your career, exactly I think, right?
You've done that 400 million times, Tom.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you this all the time.
And I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
Tom and I have had great conversations about this, because we've got similar personalities in that sense. So, it's definitely, you know what, clubs are better at managing players through that now.
Yeah.
It used to be expected that you come in your day off and you get to work.
Right.
And that was sort of like, that old school mantra that you're talking about. That's changed.
Yeah.
There's encouragement to get out there and do other things. And there's other ways to better yourself without having to actually do reps.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to go into a guy that broke a record pretty recently, Scotty Pendlebury, on disposal count. You played with him arguably through his great years of his career, particularly when you first got there. And I mean, he's never really dropped off, has he? But just when you play with him, how good is he? What makes him great? Because like you probably played a lot of minutes with him in the midfield, and I reckon your skill sets really complemented each other. Yeah.
I mean, we all see what he does with ball in hand, and like his composure, his decision making. That's obviously his strength. I guess one of the things that probably does get highlighted a lot is his competitiveness and his will to win. Like, he's a pretty laid back guy.
Yeah, he seems it.
But you challenge him in anything.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Well, in most things.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like on the basketball court or like. And he'll want to beat you. And that goes for every time he steps on the training track in pre-season. He's probably a little bit more chilled out now at the age of 45. You have to be. But he was a competitor.
Yeah.
Hated losing. There's many games where I can think back to where he just put us on his back.
Yeah,
and that's an incredible. That's like not too many players can do that.
For the Pies too. I mean, he's as big as they get, aren't they?
Yeah. I think he's got to go down as the greatest Collingwood player now.
Was he captain at the point you got there?
Yeah, halfway through the year, Maxie retired.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he went in. Yeah, so he was your captain pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. He would have been like 25 at that stage, 26 maybe.
Yeah.
And then his evolution over the last probably 4 years, where he didn't have to be the big dog. He had guys coming through that could help him.
Yeah.
And his evolution has been that he's just the conductor out there. He just makes everyone's job easier. I I used to laugh about it last year. He had to babysit Nick and Geordie out on the field. And yeah, that takes a special kind of person too, because you put your own performances aside, and you're not worried about how you go per se. You're more worried about how the team goes. And I've actually taken some motivation out of what he has done at Collingwood to my time in Sydney now, because
I bet
I don't have to have 25 a week, because I know that Errol is going to, and I know Chad's going to, and I know Isaac's going to, and Justin McInerney's going to do his bit. And so it's like, I think that you get to a point in your career where you've got contentment in what you need to do on game day. And his role now is just to run that midfield. Yeah. And the whole team. Like he basically coaches out on the football field, and I haven't seen anyone do it as well as him. Yeah.
What was the biggest difference between, and I like asking this not from the sense of to shit on them, but I just think every coach is so different. Yeah. And so when coaching changes do happen from a player point of view, it actually does shift a lot of things. Yeah. Because it's a whole new culture. It's a whole new way of potentially playing footy. You may be the same player that can do the same thing on the field, but different coaches see it differently. What was the biggest sort of transition from coming to GWS to Bucks?
Yeah, so I had Kevin Sheedy and Choco Williams in my first year.
Yeah.
And they were incredible. Particularly Choco, like he was, I learnt so much off him in the first 12 months of my AFL career.
He's like a gun. He's like a philosopher or something. Yeah, like some people, the way everyone speaks about him.
Man. He would stand out in the middle of our pre-season sessions for 3 hours and yell. And direct and point. And it was just like...
Talk about old school.
Old school. But it was like... Yeah, and he had some really quirky stuff. Like we used to do kicking school, and he used to do this thing with his feet. Like he'd pitter-patter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. I'm like...
Did it work?
He was a highly skilled player.
Was he? Right.
Yeah, and the boys loved it. And yeah, so to be honest, it's really hard for me to compare those. And then I had Liam coming in my second year at the Giants. Yeah, it's actually hard for me to compare because it was just such a different dynamic. Right. We weren't even really trying to win games. We were just trying to be in games. And I was only just learning what team defense meant at the Giants, and then you get to Collingwood and they already had a system in place.
Yeah, they had some superstars. Yeah.
But like obviously, I had Bucks for 8 years.
Yeah.
Which was awesome, and I loved Bucks. I thought, his way of coaching was really different to Flyers.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, he was probably a lot more intense in his early days, and then he became a little bit more relaxed later on, which was great to see him adapt to the younger crop of players coming through.
Do you reckon he did that? Because he speaks about that, but did he do that for himself because he was like he caught himself, or was it more for the dressing room? Because that naturally, because he was a pretty intense player, like he was kind of what you alluded to, that overwork. I mean, there's so much footage and stuff of Bucks in the gym in his playing days, like probably when he didn't have to be, because that's who he was. So what was the reason for that shift in his coaching, do you think?
It's a good question. I think a bit of both. I think he needed it himself because I reckon he just put so much pressure on himself.
Like, yeah.
Like as a player, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform, but as a coach, like he would wear everything, whether we were going well or not. Actually, no, not if we're going well. If we're going poorly, he'd wear it. He'd be like, I'm going to fix this.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset changed where he was able to let other people do their job and help him. And I think him taking a step back allowed for his players to relax and, hear from different voices, and that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made a massive difference. Like he almost got the sack in 17.
I know.
I remember I used to do a radio segment on RSN every second week.
Yeah.
And there was about a 10-week period there, like 5 times I'd go on radio and literally just had to defend him. And I wanted to because it's what I felt in my heart, that he actually was the right person.
It was just constant.
But it was like battering. You couldn't help but feel sorry for the bloke.
Yeah.
And then obviously 2018, what an amazing year that was. So it's crazy how it just happened so fast.
Was that 2018 one of your favourite years? I mean, as a footy player, just because you guys were so good, so young.
Yeah.
It's like, you almost grabbed the cup really, so close.
Yeah,
but
had one hand on it, yeah.
Yeah, but just to go into that sort of season in itself, I mean, you're a big part of what happened that year. And obviously that grand final we spoke of earlier, you played so well. Does that are you able to reflect on that now and obviously take the emotion out? Like, it's been a few years, but still, I mean, naturally.
Yeah.
It's such a strange way how it happened and how what's his name? Dom Sheed kicks that goal. It just it just still hurts me a bit, to be honest.
No, it does. It still hurts me. That year, like I look back on that year and I've really fond memories. I look back at all my years and I have fond memories.
Yeah, that's good.
I've loved my journey the whole way through. You know, I've had many ups and downs.
Yeah. But
that year, I thought that was a big year for myself in terms of my growth as a person, more so than a footballer. And probably that was the year that I really felt like I belonged. And, you know.
Really? What's that, 6 years in?
Yeah. Like, you know, when you really feel like I'm a good player now.
You've established. Like people in the other dressing room are talking about it before the game.
Yeah. And like I felt respected in the competition. So that in terms of the ending of that year, it's still really hard, particularly because I missed out last year. I remember when Bucks resigned, I remember texting him just like a month later and I just said, I just wish we won that 2018 grand final, because you think about the photos that you would have had with him in the change rooms and, you know,
and he just deserves one, doesn't he?
And just, how much it would have meant to him. And I hope he's at peace with it now, but was, you know, a guy that had given so much to our football club, would have been pretty cool to be a part of a premiership team with him.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. Was he, do you reckon he'll get back into coaching just while we're on it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think he's really happy with what he's doing.
He's doing well, isn't it, as well?
He's great.
It's because he's been there. He's been everywhere in the game. Yeah. So you kind of listen to him.
Yeah.
All aspects. Hey, do you actually care about your health? No, I am serious. Do you actually want to optimize your life? Good. Because I'm pretty excited to share our sponsor this week. And don't worry, even if you're like me, and yes, I always spill on Uber Eats all over my chest whilst I'm lazily watching Netflix. It's a hobby of mine. They do have something to help you and I improve. I'm talking about Organic Reflection, this Australian brand making incredible health products for you, your mum, and even your pets. Whoever, they have got you guys covered. These guys tried hundreds of health and wellness products before developing their own unique C60 formula that is designed to unlock the full potential of your mind, body, and soul. Yes, so Jake, what the fuck does that mean? Well, you probably haven't heard of a C60, but it is this Nobel Prize winning molecule that helps you reduce inflammation. You know, the thing that causes most things like cancer? It strengthens your immune system. It improves your mental performance. And yes, after reading their product reviews, I just thought, is this too good to be true? Because obviously I hear this stuff all the time. Grandparents not needing a walking stick, chronic illnesses being cured. You get the gist. Anyway, I tried it and holy shit, guys, I'm not joking. When I say I could notice improvements in my energy levels and mood, I felt like I could run a marathon and do backflips. I know, I'm not even kidding. For me, there's nothing worse than feeling lethargic pre and post workouts, and it helped with my own recovery levels post physical activity. But it's not just for the gym bros. Ladies, this magic formula helps improve skin, hair, and nails so you can slay the day your own way, or whatever you girls want to get up to. Best thing is they also have a pet formula, so all your furry friends, including my dog Zyla, can enjoy the same revolutionary health benefits, as well as an anti-age tea and anti-procrastination brain nutrition supplement. Crazy, right? Well, what are you guys waiting for? Get around them. You know I don't promote too many products on here, but when I do, it's best to start your journey to a healthier and happier way with Organic Reflections. You can check out their socials or head to organicreflection.com and use the discount code UNLACED for 20% off for free shipping on your first order, because I know you guys know that I am the plug. So get on there, use the discount code UNLACED for 20% off and unlock your full potential with Organic Reflection. Hey guys, just a quick pause in this episode to compliment our partners of the show. You guys know that I've been sponsored and supported by Dabble, the gambling agency, for a while now. This place has a special place in my heart because it is like the social network of gambling. You can follow superstars of the game, copy their bets. You might not know so much about a certain sport, but you can copy someone who does and increase your chances of winning some money. Obviously, if you're not a gambler, please only bet what you can and are willing to lose. Please dabble safely, gamble responsibly, as we always say. Just so you guys know, this year I've been taking over the streaming space at Dabble every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Jake's Take is live. It is the wild, wild west of streaming. There's not too many sporting agencies or gambling agencies out there doing what we do. We put on a few bets throughout the show. We get some guests on. We have a lot of fun. fun. It's all within the Dabble app. If you guys want to jump on board, the link is in the bio. Let's get back into the episode. It's funny you say that 2018 you felt established because I don't know if it was the year after or 2020. That's when a leadership group came about for Collingwood.
Yeah, it might have been. I think it might have been in the leadership group a little bit earlier. Like,
were you in before the 2018 grand final?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, so you were quite young when you went in, is what I do remember.
I was. We had a big leadership group.
Oh, did you? Yeah, the extended.
It was like 8 of us. Yeah, and at that point, I probably didn't know how to spell leadership. Seriously. Yeah, leadership groups are funny.
Yeah. What's the? I mean, I don't get it. Like a group, I get I understand it's a big club, but I personally this is me being me. I think there's just one captain. That's it. Yeah. I'm old fashioned in that sense. But leadership groups, what do they actually do?
You do a lot of collaboration, and there are decisions that need to be made. Particularly you're basically the conduit between the football administration, coaches, and the players.
Mm.
So scheduling and right down to the psychology of the players, how they're feeling, what's working, what's not,
right,
etc. And then your on-field stuff's really important. I thought I think the leadership groups that I've been in that have worked the best are smaller ones.
Yeah,
4 or 5
4
guys.
or 5, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just logistically hard to even get a meeting with 7 or 8 guys.
Did that end up moving to that sort of way?
Yeah, so the last few years it was 4 guys.
Right.
And then you sort of lean on, an extended leadership group, and that's what we've got at Sydney. So, it works. It works. I think they're really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the players, you need to learn leadership. Leadership's not innate. You're not born with leadership. You're born with leadership attributes, but you're not born with the capabilities to or the techniques around leadership, negotiating, navigating.
Yeah.
Times we need to be tough, times we need to put your arm around someone. Decision making. There's a myriad of things that a leader has to do.
Who'd you learn those things off? Who was the bloke that you got that insight off?
A number of guys. Jeremy Howe, Scotty Pendlebury internally.
Jeremy Howe's an all-time vice captain.
Yeah, he's great. He could easily be captain.
Yeah, he's always been vice, but he's very well respected in that sense, isn't he?
Yeah, my style of leadership was probably, I was more of a hard-nosed leader at the start.
Yeah.
And then that would and my teammates would probably back this up. It probably impacted my relationships that I was able to have with them. Because I expected them to be like me, expected them to a lot.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, I've learned that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I've been able to learn that being caring and empathetic is more important.
That's a good trait of self-awareness.
Yeah,
because to call that out and change it, and
I've had help. We did a heap of work with our leadership. We've had many consultants come into the football club at the Pies, and and just learning off guys like Darcy and Howe, whose strengths were the empathy, and Pendles, whose level-headedness, and so I was really lucky to be at a great footy club that prioritised that.
Was 2020 your best year as a player at the Pies? I think did you win the Copeland that year?
Yeah.
Yeah, was it Copeland season?
Yeah, I think I was one of the best and fairest that year.
Which is a huge achievement. To win a best and fairest at the Pies, everyone always remembers that, I feel.
Yeah.
More than other clubs for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really tough year that year.
Was that the COVID year? Oh,
yeah, it was COVID.
It was COVID year. It was a bubble year, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had strong years, 17, 18, 19, 20. They were my 4 years that I was relatively uninjured and was able to get some continuity in and played pretty good footy. I think 2018 was the last 10 rounds of 2018 was probably my peak.
Really?
I was
crunch.
Yeah, I felt like I was playing. I knew every week I'd walk out there and I knew I was going to play well.
Yeah,
and play well for the team. My role was get after the opposition, win the ball, win the contested ball, and
that's such a hard place. Such a hard place to get to.
Yeah,
when you have that confidence to walk out every week and you know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's fucking hard to get to that point.
Yeah. It's hard to continually do it.
Yeah.
There's not many to continually do it.
That's why I don't understand. I've always struggled with the psyche of some days you turn up and everything happens for you and you just come back the next week and it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what the fuck? I feel like I'm doing the same thing, but sometimes the form's not there. I always wonder what that is, like the psyche behind it. But that's interesting. So but 2020, the Copeland. I thought that was special, man.
Yeah, it was. It was obviously a really weird season. We lost the second final, went over to West Coast in the first final, and no one gave us a chance. And we won that game over there, which is unbelievable.
That was one of the best games ever.
Yeah, it was so good. And then we went back and got absolutely walloped by Geelong at the Gabba, and I actually dislocated my elbow in the first 10 minutes. And so that was a bit miserable. The hub was just, I mean, none of us would do it now, would we? Like it just.
I don't know how you guys did it. I mean, and don't get me wrong, you guys were very much on the front foot. Like we get everyone else is struggling, wherever they are. Like we're not, but it still wasn't fucking easy for you guys because you guys were separated from family as well.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky being the age I was 4 years ago now. So I was only 26, 27.
Yeah.
So I had my partner and she actually came up to the hub.
Did the families come up?
Yeah, but not everyone's. That was a really difficult thing. Some people's partners and wives and kids had to stay in Melbourne for different reasons.
Schools and fucking life, whatever.
Yeah, life. And that broke my heart. Like Lyndon Dunn was the perfect example of that. He had his wife Sam and their children staying in Melbourne. Fuck, I just couldn't imagine it.
Yeah.
Like he was playing twos most of the year.
Oh god.
He come back, he went over it, he played a game in Adelaide and kicked the goal, and it was one of the happiest moments of my footy career.
Really?
Just what he meant for our footy club. He'd only been there for a short amount of time, but everyone just flocked to him. He got a 50-metre penalty, I think, and just slow one.
Good, get in there, son.
And he sat there like this. And, so there was some real ups in that year. Like I felt like I was able to. I felt like as a football club, we really galvanised, and I think most footy clubs, through adversity, most organisations or friendship groups or families, they galvanise through adversity, and we supported each other really well, and I was just super grateful to be able to get through a whole season uninjured and play really good footy.
Yeah. To sort of round out the last couple of parts of the Pies, Nick Dacos came in. You played a couple of years with him. Obviously, Geordie started to find his feet as in the midfield a couple of years ago. Did you sort of realise that the specialty of the midfield that was brewing in that last couple of years, which obviously you're a part of, with Pendles there with his leadership, and obviously you had Darcy Cameron and the Dake boys were coming through.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious what was gonna, how good that could be. I remember seeing Nick in the first year, and I thought, it's gonna take a few years. He's pretty skinny, pretty small, and then I just went, fucking Jesus, wow.
What was it about him that made him so AFL ready?
Obviously decision making and his skill, but he's also incredibly gifted as an athlete.
Really?
Yeah, like he responds really well to any stimulus in the gym. Like he was able to put on power, like add power to his game, which I thought was impossible.
Wow.
He put some muscle on through his arse and his legs and got stronger, and he's really quick, and clean, and just a smart, like for a kid, he's incredibly intelligent on the footy field. So I mean with Pendles navigating and controlling that midfield, and I thought Darcy Cameron's development.
Yeah.
Like he was a bit of a makeshift rock.
Well, because I mean Brody, who we'll touch on. I mean that whole thing was such a crazy. It was a crazy situation.
Yeah.
But actually, maybe it would be good to touch on that because now you're with Brody, and as I said, we'll speak about Sydney. But seeing him leave like that, there was a period when he was a ruck at the Pies where I was like, he might be the best ruckman I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He was literally just plucking it out and handballing it off at times. Like that must have been such a joy to play with when he was at that peak of like the two, I think it might have been 2 or 3 seasons at the Pies. He was untouchable.
Yeah, well, I think I owed him an All-Australian jacket because without him, I certainly wouldn't have one.
Yeah, when did you get it?
Was it 2020? 2020,
yeah.
And that was like he was, fighting to get back to his best.
Yeah.
But people underestimated the impact that he had on our group.
Yeah.
Both on and off the field.
Yeah.
Off the field, he changed the fabric of the Collingwood Football Club.
Did he really? Yeah. How so?
He's a very progressive, deep thinker. Yeah. And I think football clubs need someone like him to help direct them. And as the way society's going and as the way football clubs were a number of years ago, there needed to be a change.
Yeah.
Footy clubs for some people were a horrible place.
Yeah. Yeah.
People like with my personality, where a bit more of an extrovert and pretty thick-skinned, you get through fine. But there's a lot of guys that aren't like me.
Yeah.
And like, I guess they're in the minority because they just don't make it through. But they should be places where anyone can feel safe and comfortable and go out there and become their best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And I think through some some really deep internal reflection on our group and some help from Brodie particularly, I think he's sort of the trailblazer in that sense. He we're able to change our environment to become a really loving, caring environment. And I think most football clubs have shifted that way.
Yeah, definitely. So that shift sort of happened a little bit before Fly came in other words?
Yeah, I think it did.
Because, there was always that. That's what I've noticed about the Collingwood footy. It's like very much a family.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must have, so sounds like it kind of, that culture was sort of brewing back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Fly was pretty lucky with the group that he got, to be honest. Like, he got a really mature group.
Yeah.
That, a lot of players that were at the Pies when he took over had played a lot of good footy and had been around the block a bit. So that would have made it easier for him.
Yeah, definitely. But can I ask your experience with Fly? How many years did you have with him? 2. Yep. What was he like? That would have been, that I think would have been a bigger shift than obviously what you said with the Giants. That would have been a big shift with him coming in. Even though same club, same fabric of what you've been doing, it seems to be a completely different coach.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, no, I thought the way that he transitioned into the footy club was exceptional. He came in with a clear plan and his values shone through really strongly. And he valued, team first, pulling your socks up and getting to work, enjoying each other and celebrating each other. And he was really big on making sure that we take our families and our fans along for the ride.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an incredible transition. I mean, we went from 17th, whatever, to a prelim, just only by a point. So,
fuck.
The footy stuff, the X's and O's and that sort of stuff, he had some guys that helped him out with that. Obviously, Lepper and Brendan Bolton and Hayden Skipworth. These guys are experienced coaches who had been there before. And, I just thought they worked extremely well together. And, as I said before, I thought our group was really receptive to a new coach and new ideas. And we just wanted someone we could trust to get us back to where we wanted to be. Yeah.
I want to touch on it. This is actually funny. I went on Tommy Mitchell's Ball Magnets podcast. Yeah. And we did, mate. I honestly left. We both left this podcast. It would have been like a couple of weeks after the grand final last year. And I remember we both left a message, mate, that was the best podcast ever. I don't know how all these story times, and we just connected and the energy was great. And then we got a text about 2 hours later from his producer saying, I forgot to turn one of the cameras on.
Oh, it
never came to life. But one of the things I did say in that, and I was hoping it would go live, but it was obviously your experience. We spoke of your experience towards obviously the grand final and missing that, and sort of what you went through there. But I remember I spoke to you at the Premiership party as such, and I just remember coming over to you because I was like, fuck, that for me is the hardest moment to be a good bloke. Because like ultimately you want to be, but you'd been there for 8 years, like grinded harder than anyone to get to that point. You'd been so integral to the whole thing. And then the sporting gods just like, change their mind, and it's all of a sudden you're fucked. And then they finally get this prize. And I was just sitting there because I just always love to see characters in that moment. And like, as hard as that would have been, I reckon behind closed doors you were pretty fucking gutted. But I don't know how you put on a brave face the way you did, because I thought that said a lot about your character. So I just wanted to kind of go through that for the Collingwood fans, because I don't know if you've really spoken too publicly about that period. You might have touched on it with things, but it was obviously a really challenging period. And then we'll go into obviously the trade that happened after it as well.
Yeah, it was, I mean, everything, you've got to be able to put everything into perspective. But in terms of my football career, and in terms of like my whole life, put aside, family death, and I've been relatively fortunate. So that month was, from when I got injured to missing out and then having to deal with all the emotions of that was the most difficult part of my period of my life.
Yeah. I sensed that. I was like, I felt like I'd sort of been cheated a little bit. I
felt like I tried to look for the reasons why, and I just couldn't understand. I couldn't find why did it happen this time. Like, I've had a lot of injuries, but to play every game bar a suspension, and then fall short 2 weeks before, and then miss out on the ultimate prize when it could have been a month earlier and it would have been okay. I would have got back for the granny.
Were you a sniff to get in the because I remember you were doing run you had a test or something.
Yeah, I needed probably 5 more days.
Fuck off.
Yeah, I needed 5 more days.
Oh no.
So I certainly wasn't going to run out there and test my hammy on grand final day.
Yeah.
You just know. Like, if you've ever been an athlete or you've ever played any sort of sport, you know.
You know the risk. Yeah,
I know I wasn't right. So
there
was no way I was going to put the team at jeopardy.
Which, again, another brave decision, right? Not a selfish decision.
Well, I don't see it as that. I just think,
I
imagine running out there. Like, it's just...
Yeah, it's an embarrassing to come off too
incredibly selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was... I mean, it still hurts. Like,
have you come to terms with it at all? Like, in all honesty, because to be honest, man, like, I hope you do. And realistically, like, I don't think when you say like, I'll try to find the reason, I don't think you ever will.
No,
like,
neither do I.
There is no fucking reason for that. It's bullshit. Like, at the end of the day, but you and I know that is fucking comes with this game.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you've even if you experience it a little bit at Sydney, like, just. Sporting gods throw a curveball at you and you got to bounce back and it just holds you back. But yeah, that I just wanted to get like a real honest answer of like how tough that was for you because
it still fucking kills me because I think about like I didn't want to win a premiership for the medal. I didn't want to win a premiership to be a premiership player. I wanted to win a premiership I wanted to win a premiership so that around my house you could see photos of me, Steele, and Howie and Pendles. Like my closest mates. I wanted to see it win a premiership because I wanted my grandfather to hold my premiership medal. You know what I mean? Like, it's deeper than just being a premiership player.
Yeah.
And I saw that firsthand at the Pies when we won. And it was the most amazing. And I was so happy for everyone. Like, it was the most amazing thing, like, to see guys that had, Billy Frampton, Darcy Cameron, Scott and Steele to do it again. Howie, like these guys, other than Steele and Howie, these guys probably didn't think they were a huge sniff to win a flag.
Especially after 2018, you're like probably touch and go for the get back in that. You know how hard you knew how hard it was to win one.
Yeah,
yeah.
So that's what I certainly miss the most. Like, thinking about that, that's what hurts the most.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, the Collingwood fans, mate. Final one on that. Do you feel a part of it when you don't play? In all honesty,
no.
Yeah, you don't, do you?
Not at all. No.
Everyone always says
the footy club did a great job supporting me.
I know, but that always hurts me more. Like, I'd rather be left out, man. Like,
that's just the way it is, man. That's the reality. There's just nothing that you could have done that would have made that experience any better for me.
Yeah. When did the conversation? And it's funny now when I think back to the prelim, the 1 point game, which was one of the best footy games I've ever been to. When so I talk about it all the time. I don't know how Steele kicked that goal to like get you back within a point.
Yeah.
But what a strange game that was in hindsight now when you look at your career of what's happened. But the trade to Sydney, I mean, just to get into that, because I would love to talk about that footy club because, I mean, I'm so happy for you because I don't think you could have gone to a better footy club in regards to outside of Collingwood and where they're at and the player, the quality of the group they've got, the coach they've got. But how did that come about? Was that something you were expecting? Was that a shock?
Like, it was a shock. Yeah. I was pretty disappointed by the feedback and the transparency that I got from Collingwood throughout the year. There was a bit of misalignment from coach to coach and what I was getting told.
Like, what were you kind of like? You will get, you won't get.
Clearly, I'm a midfielder, and I know that our midfield we had guys coming through, but I still thought there was a position for me, and I was told that was the case for a lot of the year. And I sort of got played, out of position where I wasn't playing that well, and you do start thinking about, I'm out of contract at the end of 24. Are they in a nice way? Are they phasing me out? And it felt a lot like that.
Yeah.
And this is probably more so with like 5 or so rounds to go. And my manager had been across it the whole year. He just monitored.
Just in case.
Yeah, he just monitored my appetite to see what's out there. And I continually said no. And it got to a point where he said, look, mate, I know you're not that happy. You're not fully content. And you're probably playing a little bit like that. I need to go and do something now to see what's out there. Otherwise, you won't give me enough time. And so I said to him,
good manager.
Yeah, he was excellent. Yeah. And I said to him, yeah, I'm happy for you to speak to some clubs that you think would be a good fit. And obviously there was some parameters around that. But I said, this is going into like my 200th game. And I'm like, fuck, you feel really shit about doing it. But I was like, at time you've got to look after yourself.
Fuck, isn't that interesting perspective from the athlete going into your 200th game?
Well, it was like around that time. So it was like late in the year.
It's just interesting what's going on in the background. Yet people are from the outside are just going like, he's a Collingwood legend. Like, but you really, that's a business of sport, mate. Like,
yeah, that is.
That's what's happening in the real world.
And he was really good because I said to him, I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to know. If all I want you to do is do your job. Don't tell me I'm going to go win a flag. Yeah, that was my mindset. And then obviously injured myself, and he brought it back up again. And I said, I can't deal with this right now. And he was fine with that. And then, after the granny, obviously did some celebrating. And then he said, I've got a meeting hooked up with one of the clubs, with a club that I think is a good fit. And I said, who? And he said, Sydney. And it sort of hit me like a ton of bricks, like, fuck, am I really going to do this? Like, and
so it must have been and don't get me wrong, I know how happy you are at the Swans because just speaking to you off air, your excitement around the group. But at the same time, like that's a big part of your life. Yeah. Like you came in as a boy, you left a mature man in a sense. That must have been so hard for you, even though you probably felt football-wise it might be the best thing for you. Or
well, I hadn't really even made my decision up at this. Well, I definitely hadn't because this is on like the Monday or Tuesday following the granny, and I ended up meeting with John and the Swans on the Wednesday. And I was transparent with John, and I said, look, my preferred move is to not move. Like I love the footy club, but that's where my heart's at. I said I've got to make a decision with my head because footy doesn't last forever, and I think I've got some more to offer. And he said absolutely, completely understood. He was fantastic, and so was Tom Harley and everyone up at the Swans. Yeah. And I met with Righty and Fly on Thursday. The Thursday following that meeting on Wednesday, and I just sort of laid out, how I was feeling with my career, and Fly basically said, look, nothing's going to really change next year. We think you do a great job in the role that you're playing. And I thought, to be honest, I sort of thought it was just blowing wind on my ass. Yeah. Because it just, like, if you ask anyone, I was playing my role for the team, but I was definitely replaceable. Yeah. Okay. And I understand that.
What was that role? I
was playing like a high half forward, like a wide role, which just didn't really suit my attributes.
That's not you, mate.
No, it's not. And
you watch your highlights, it's some of the greatest highlights ever because it's just you like literally diving head first on like into three knees and 4 legs, and it's just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, but like, and I understand that, we've got guys coming through that are good, and we've got a guy that's lasted 300 years.
Just shoot it to you straight.
So I get the business. Yeah. Yeah. So after that meeting, I was left a little bit frustrated because I didn't mention to them that at that time that I'd met with Sydney. Right. Because I wasn't sure about the whole thing. So I called Righty the next day and had another conversation with him and said, I need more clarity. I've met with another club and I'm going to explore my options. And he was really supportive. He said, I'm not going to trade you and you're staying. You're a Collingwood person, and I appreciated that more than he'll ever know. But as I said before, I had to make a decision with my head. And I actually didn't hear from Fly at all again, which hurt me. And
I wonder why that is, for all the people that speak him up as like this great sort of coach. Why it is,
because it's a fucking really hard conversation to have. Yeah. And the nature of the business is if I can't add value to that footy club, then...
But you'll never forget that, Like I don't
take it personally.
Okay, that's good then.
He should have called me and had the hard conversation, but I can understand why he didn't because He just won a flag. He just had a baby. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I don't have any hard feelings about it.
Yeah.
But I spoke to Roddy. So that we had the best affairs on the Friday. There was nothing from the club, and it's a story sort of broke that day that I'd been chatting to Sydney, and I started getting some advice off the assistant coaches and some of the senior players, and I basically told them, was completely transparent. This is what I've got in front of me. This is what I've got with Collingwood. What would you do?
Who was a good soundboard for you in that? That you can share.
I probably prefer to keep it confidential just because,
that's fair enough.
I'm not sure if they'd be, overly, but, senior players that I'm close with, you can read between the lines.
Yeah.
And then some of the coaches that I'd spent some time with.
Yeah. So, and then what? So, how did
basically said, mate, you'd be fucking stupid not to go.
Right. Okay.
And like, I had a really good opportunity at a fucking great footy club.
Same thing with Collingwood. Did you realise how big Sydney was until you got there?
No.
It's fucking huge, isn't it, mate?
It's massive up there. And like, I've been pleasantly surprised with, our fans and the support that we get.
Yeah.
At the SCG and even down in Melbourne. It's crazy.
The Melbourne following, that's always taken me by storm. Just like, it's probably one of the most followed footy clubs.
It is.
Even within Melbourne. It's got such a huge ecosystem here.
Yeah. Great history. We launched the they did a new fit out at the Royal Hall of Industries, which is our base, our training base there at Moore Park near the SCG, and they did a launch of that building. It's called the Basil Sellers and Richard Collis building now. I think it's called the building. And so we did this massive launch. It was awesome. That is all this. I've run through the whole history of the football club, and I just never heard it. Unless you're a South Melbourne or Sydney fan, you don't. Why would you put the time in to learn that? And I was just taken aback by the sacrifice, the dedication, the perseverance, the blood, sweat and tears that went into making the Swans such a great footy club.
Yeah.
And it actually reminds me a lot of Collingwood.
There's similarities,
through
right?
the 90s and, when Eddie had to do all that work to drag Collingwood off the canvas. Well, Sydney had the same sort of thing through the 80s and 90s.
Did they really? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a great story, and the history behind the footy club's really strong. And after that night, I remember driving home just thinking, fuck, I'm at a good place.
Yeah.
And that was a month into me starting to train there, and I just knew that, the people there, right from Andrew Pridham down to whoever, everyone was like they bled red and white.
Yeah.
And I felt extremely supported by the Swans in my transition up there.
Yeah. I always love finding out when people go to new footy clubs, like the player that maybe you didn't know how good they were until you got in there and actually saw them. Who was that player for you, or players?
There's a number, because I guess
there's quite a few.
Yeah, obviously being a New South Wales team, they're not in the media as much.
Yeah.
There's a number of them. Like, everyone speaks about Chad and Errol, and they've probably exceeded what I thought. The ceiling for them is infinite.
Yeah.
But then, guys like Nick Blakey, like I'd be surprised if he doesn't leave his career with 3 or 4 All-Australian jackets.
Yeah.
Justin McInerney has really impressed me. Ollie Florent, he's a high draft pick. I think he's pick 13 or 11.
Yeah, like a superstar.
Isaac
Heaney, he's his best.
I knew Heaney was a gun.
But he's this year he's gone
unbelievable.
Yeah.
His preseason was unbelievable. And he's one of the best trainers I've seen.
Right.
Like, tips in, super fit, super athletic.
Yeah.
Strong. And just like a real, Matt, to be honest, he's been one of the great supports for me moving up.
Really. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So he's I'm super grateful for him and what he's, I did a lot of training with him over the preseason. We sort of just leaned on each other, and
awesome.
Yeah. So it's been awesome to see him start the year so well. I mean, he's in sizzling form.
Yeah, that's probably the one like happiness in me of you leaving the Pies, because everyone knows that I love the Pies, but is you've gone to a team that I feel is like flag ready, like that you guys are there.
Yeah.
And you guys are really exciting to watch play. The quality of the players coming through and how young they are too. It's kind of like you've stepped into Collingwood back in 2018, but now you're a 30-year-old mid.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah. But then I want to go into the new facility because I love the walk that you guys do over to the ground now.
Yeah.
That's like something unique.
It's cool, hey?
Well, it's just because the crowd gets around it. I know you did it with the Pies to the G, but like wasn't the same Mate, it doesn't seem like it was the same thing. So.
Yeah. Well, they launched it. Yeah, I think it was Horse's idea. They launched it because this year's our 150th year in AFL, VFL history. So they originally planned for it to be a one-off, and they had such an amazing turnout and the boys loved it, that we've continued it. We didn't do it on the weekend. It'll be more of a sporadic thing from here on in. But yeah, that's cool. It's and I think some guys were a little bit, they weren't sure about it. And I was like, no, you just lean into this sort of stuff. Like this is the fun shit about playing AFL.
Absolutely.
Like you've got to enjoy these moments and doesn't have to be all so serious. Just enjoy it. And we had the marching band and it's a bit of carry on, but like fans love it. And we're in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. Fucking oath.
Yeah, let's try to make this sport massive in New South Wales.
Yeah.
And I reckon what we're doing up there at the moment with the Swans and the Giants is going in that direction. So
I know, isn't that funny? Like you've played for both clubs now. That Sydney derby has never been bigger.
Yeah, well, we're got to get through a game tomorrow, but like next week we play the Giants next week.
Wow!
So
you'd be pumped for that.
Yeah, it's it's pretty surreal. Like full circle. I mean, I started my career in Sydney at the Giants and played for an awesome football club in Melbourne, and now I get to go up to Sydney and finish up there. And I'm really lucky.
Yeah, mate. I think you've landed on your feet without doubt. But just you're a good person to ask. There's always the state rivalry, better city, blah blah blah. You can actually speak on the. I don't tell me what's worse or what's city's better. I just want you to tell me the biggest differences between Sydney and Melbourne that for you are evident.
Well, so far the weather has been notably different.
Good,
but it's better up in Sydney. Yeah, we've had a really warm summer and it's been a warm start to autumn and going into winter.
Yeah, and
just the fact that everything revolves around the beaches.
Yeah, that's nice. Like you being a Torquay boy as well, you'd appreciate that.
Yeah, so it's just a I love both cities. Yeah, and I don't know where I'm going to live post footy or what I'm going to be doing, but both got their perks. I love the culture of Melbourne and the footy sporting culture of Melbourne.
Yeah.
But then I also love the laid-back lifestyle of Sydney where no one knows who I am or no one really gives a fuck about.
Is that a bit of breath of fresh air for you? Because Collingwood's so everything you sneeze, you're in the paper. Do you know what I mean?
No, it is you're certainly able to live a more normal life. It wasn't a burden, but it's like a lot of benefits. Pretty cool, man. Like, but I'm at my stage of my career and where I'm at, I was pretty happy to get out of the limelight.
Yeah. Johnny Longmire, a living legend. Just a few thoughts on him, how he goes about it. Obviously, he seems like a ripping bloke just from outside of it. Well, I don't know him too well, but he always seems to get very similar to Geelong, Sydney are in regards to they just keep finding a way to burn through players and stay right at the top of the game. What's so good about him? What have you enjoyed and what's been a key sort of some initial learnings you've had off him?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because I think people, they probably don't get a great insight into John.
Nah.
Especially down in Melbourne. I couldn't be more grateful for what he's done for myself and my fiancée Ellie. And I think Brody and his fiancée Rachel would speak just as highly. Incredibly supportive, just like a great people person. Really cares about his players and you see him going off his head in the box at times and it just shows how high pressure this game is and the role that he's in. But away from that, calm, collected, articulate, really caring. Yeah, I've been super grateful and, obviously knows the game inside and out. And I think the stat is something like he's coached for like close to 20 years. He's missed the finals twice.
Whoa.
I
didn't know that.
Yeah. Someone needs to fact check me on that. But I think it's like 16 of 18, of 18 years.
What did you say, 16 of, let's see how close Tay is. That's right. That's unbelievable. So he's been a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, they don't bottom out.
Did you know Brody was gone? Obviously was that, because that was obviously worked in conjunction in a way.
They told me without telling me on the Wednesday that I met them. I asked Charlie Gardner and Tom Harley, like, what's going on with Brody? I never asked Brody because I'd never want to put pressure on him. But once they told me, I called him and said, "Get up there. You're not going to believe where I am." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Where?" He's like, "Where?" I'm like, "I'm in an Uber leaving Swans HQ. I'm going to the airport." And he was just like, he was silent for 5 seconds. Like, what the fuck? And I was like, we might be reuniting, mate. And yeah, so obviously having him up there has been so nice.
Oh, would just, mate. I can imagine.
Just a friendly face.
And he's he's, as you said, the way you explained him before, like he's a pretty welcoming character to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've learned so much off him, and I'm so grateful for our friendship, and it's obviously gotten stronger over the last 5 months. So yeah, he's been a great sounding board for me.
Mate, what do you get up to off the field? Who are you outside of it? Mate, I've heard that you're obviously a hard nut on the field, as we know, but you're quite like I think people would be shocked when they meet you off the field because you're just a normal bloke. You're very, very close with your family. Like you grew up in Torquay.
Yeah.
Like the way you play footy is not the way you walk around the street. Put it that way. So
no, I don't walk around the street diving into people's knees. Believe it or not,
that would be good though. That'd be some good content.
Off the field, yeah, like really close to my family. I'm really lucky to have such a supportive and tight knit family. Same with my friends. I've got 11 schoolmates that I'm still incredibly close with.
Yeah,
I've got a beautiful fiance who we spend incredible amount of time together and just love each other's company. So really, she's been an awesome support.
Does that help your footy when you settle down, do you think?
Yeah, when you stable. Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah.
When you're happy and Yeah, we've got 2 golden retrievers, which we love.
Bless, yeah.
I'm getting married at the end of the year, so I'm excited for that. And I've got a lot of good things happening in my life, and the start to this new chapter, this new journey. I just felt an overwhelming gratitude for the support I got from people inside the industry. Collingwood people, Sydney people, my network outside of footy. It's just been a really surreal experience making this move and moving on to the next chapter of your life. Although it's incredibly daunting, and I certainly miss the Pies. I'm just so grateful to be where I am.
Yeah. I've got a few quick fire for fun footy questions for you that I know the listeners are going to love. But hardest opponent in your career?
Probably,
and why? Just for...
Well, I think the best player I played against is Gary Ablett Jr.
Everyone said I love that.
He was just so fucking good. Couldn't tackle
Gold Coast Gary Ablett?
Yeah. Gold Coast Gary Ablett. And just kick goals from wherever.
Yeah. Really that good?
Unbelievable.
There you go.
The guy that was that made me most starstruck was Buddy.
Buddy, yeah. And you just missed him. What is it? You got any Buddy stories actually just from the boys out of there? Because he was obviously...
No, I don't. No, not really.
It just would have been unbelievable playing with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone says that. All right. Favourite away ground?
Favourite away ground.
Well, let's rule out MCG and SCG as options.
Yeah, I would say Adelaide Oval.
Adelaide Oval. Right.
Yeah.
What has been your welcome to AFL moment? There's probably a few given GWS, but there's a few big losses. But is anything specific that you remember just thinking, holy fuck?
Well, I copped the spray from Chad Corns one day.
Did you? He was your teammate, right?
Yeah, teammate.
Yeah.
And that was like, all right, mate, put your big boy pants on and get on with it because this is fair income.
Yeah.
Like I was like, Jesus. Like in terms of like games that have my ass handed to me, I reckon Swanee kicked 5 on us one day at the Giants.
He did.
45 at Spotless Stadium.
Yeah.
I thought, Jesus Christ.
I remember speaking to him about that because Swanee's a little bit, I'd say like Geordie. Like the big games is for something about that's their moment. Like they get up for those things. So I always went to Swanee. I'm like, why did you play so good against the expansion teams back then? He goes, man, it was the best time to get my stat sheet up.
A few Brownlow votes.
Yeah, like Brownlow votes, all that shit. Because he usually wouldn't, but he did. He fucking turned up in those games.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask? Oh, yeah, your highlight of your career so far. If anything sort of stands out, something you're really proud of. It might not be the obvious thing, but just something that you sort of really made you and your family really happy that you...
I think my family have been happy the whole way through, and so have I. Like it's just, I mean, the ups and downs.
I've done a lot, mate, to be fair.
Yeah, it's probably not the obvious things, though, that make you, like, really, really grateful. My 200 game last year was really special.
Yeah.
Like, we went over to Port and ended up getting the win. And Jamie Elliott looked after me with a handball in the goal square to kick goal. And that was pretty cool. I had all my friends and family there.
Cool.
Pretty proud moment.
Last one. Best player you've played with?
Pendles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's, I was actually, off the back of him breaking the record, or another record.
Yeah, fuck.
Through the league. I was having a deep think about it and I was like, yeah, he's just, like, in terms of, you've got to take longevity into the equation.
Yeah.
And people forget how good he was when he was, he was the man. He was the man there for 8-10 years.
I know.
And now he's just doing his thing to help the team. I think output and longevity, Pendles is the best I've played with.
Yep. Well said, mate. Oh, mate, this has been a hell of a podcast.
Mate,
I don't know if there's anything else.
Is
there anything else that we haven't brought up that I know the listeners would want of you? No, I don't know.
No, you've done a great job.
Have you? Wait, Braden, did you fact check the thing on John Longmire, by the way?
Yeah, he started in 2011 and he won the 2012 grand final. He's been to 3 others in 14, 16 and 22.
Yeah.
And he's missed 2 final series.
You're right.
I was wrong about the duration.
That's the fuck thing. I actually think the crazy...
13 years he's played in 11 finals.
And four of them have been grand finals.
Yeah. Mate, that's incredible.
Wow, dude. Wow.
That's incredible, yeah.
And actually, the past players that come through that club, like, that's one of the clubs that Sydney have got, like, Hall of Famers. Like,
Hall of Famers.
Yeah. Those
Nicky
clubs. Yeah.
Goodsy,
like, you know what I mean?
Buddy.
Jude Bolton, there's kind
Bolton.
of a lot of legends, man.
Yeah.
Leo Barry.
Leo Barry.
Yeah. Have you rubbed shoulders with any of those kind of guys yet?
Yeah, I've met most of those guys. And, the Swans community is really tight. A lot of the boys actually stay up there. So a lot of the past players actually, they go on to live in Sydney. And I was actually lucky enough, funny story, to be invited over to Mike Pike's house with Brody for dinner one night. Like we were like a month into our Swans careers. And he reached out and I thought what a great footy club if,
that they're doing that stuff. That stands out a lot. Yeah.
So I was like, having the opportunity to chat to Mike about like the history behind the Bloods, because he was there right from the start. And his story's incredible. A Canadian that come over and never played footy and had to grind his way through, ends up playing in a premiership.
Yeah.
Just like to hear the nuances around how the Bloods was developed. I was like, fuck, this is cool. This is like, this is a proud footy club.
Yeah. Oh, you've always been a fan favourite wherever you go. I reckon you're going to be another fan favourite for the Bloods, mate. Glad to see you back. Obviously, you had a bit of an injury at the start of the year, which we didn't touch too much on, but more importantly, you're back on the footy field now.
Yeah,
getting back to your best, mate. So appreciate you coming on. You guys are sitting nice and high on the ladder, and hopefully it stays like that for the rest of the year.
Thanks, mate. Maybe a pie's Swans granny.
How fitting. How fitting. Wouldn't that just be more? Just stir the pot a bit more with your career? Nah, mate. In all honesty, I'm glad you landed on your feet, and this has been well overdue, this pod, but I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Good to catch up.
Beautiful, guys. We'll see you next week. Appreciate you tuning in.
Ciao.